Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. Real Estate Coaching Radio is the nation's #1 daily radio show for realtors who demand authentic, real-time coaching. Get ready for fluff-free, unfiltered, full-strength honesty about what's truly working to get you into action, helping others, and making money now in today's real estate market. Now to our hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back to Real Estate Coaching Radio. I would be remiss if I did not start out today's show by announcing today is a very special day here in the halls of Tim and Julie Harris Real Estate Coaching. Head Coach Julie's birthday is today. So I would sing happy birthday, but then I'm quite confident tens of thousands of you would run away from your listening devices screaming in agony. So I won't do that, but I will say, Julie, congratulations on your, what would it be, your 39th birthday for the 9th year in a row. So congratulations. No, is that about right?
Yes. So you're close. And happy birthday to you, too, by the way. They didn't all get to celebrate yours on Saturday. So, yes. And I always joke that I'm 111 years old and realtor, so we've all done our time. But
well, we're doing it right. So I was combing through. I was going to CNBC, Bloomberg, just everywhere. Every morning, I pull out real estate content that I send to our media staff, and they then will write stories around a lot of that content that I send to them. And it is fascinating that and we go. And when I'm searching, I go coast to coast, all the major newspapers. And I just have my Google alerts set up in case you guys are wondering how I do it. You can do the same thing. Have my Google alerts set up so that anything has to do with real estate, it gets pinged and I peruse and then I hunt and peck. Moral of the story is pretty much in every single city and every single major market, they're all reporting the same sort of housing malaise that we've been talking about on this podcast, but also we've been preparing all of you for the last couple of years. So it shouldn't be much of a surprise to the thousands of you that are listen to us every single day. But for the rest of you, I would strongly suggest that you accept the fact that this is not just a temporary thing, that it's the new market, and it's going to get tighter. And every single, article that I read was all concluding the same exact thing, that they are expecting, or sellers, and, it's going to get worse. It's going to become more and more of a buyer's market. And I don't know if that word worse is the right one that I should have chosen, because the fact is it's going to get better for agents that have skill. It's going to get better for, certain buyers that may have been left on the, left out of the market. It's not going to get better for brokerages, and it's going to get a hell of a lot worse for agents that don't have skill. And that's where our focus is. So, when I say worse, I meant it for the sake of all the brokers that we talk to on a regular basis and all the agents we talk to on a regular basis who are all reporting the same things to us about their market essentially, or about their, essentially their ability to get homes sold in this market completely changing. It's not, a day does not go by where I don't get probably 5 or 6 emails from mostly from coaching members who are telling me, they just joined, most of them, a lot of, thousands of people join our Premier Coaching every year, and they're all joining us after having, this is the usual pattern, after having listened to us for a long time, after having maybe used some of the things they learned on our podcast, but they didn't have to take it too seriously because their market was still a seller's market. So they're waking up to this year, they have some spring inventory, and the spring inventory is not selling, or it's not getting a lot of showings, or just the nature of the activity is completely different, and they don't know how to deal with it. Well, those are the things that we teach. Those are the things that, those are the gaps that we fill in. And if you don't understand that the market's going to get more challenging, I mean, when Julie and I sold real estate, we sold real estate for about 10 years, between 100 and 200 homes a year for, 10 years in a row. When we sold real estate, we never sold in a hot seller's market. Never once did we sell in a market where homes sell themselves. Oh, yeah, you get the occasional easy listing. But for the most part, these relationships we had with these sellers lasted months. And we essentially, the reason that Julie and I thrive coaching in a market like this is because this is really where it does become all about skills. In the previous market, that's where we that's where we cut our teeth when we were selling real estate. In a market that when you walked into a listing presentation, you had to expect, A, you're going to have to compete. B, you may be the second or third agent because it's expired 2 or 3 times. The seller's going to be ornery. Just the whole situation to get showings is going to be different. Just putting things in the MLS, and praying that they'll sell and putting a sign in the yard, the 5 Ps, I don't remember the other two off the top of my head, those things, they don't work in a buyer's market. They just don't. And that's all most of you know how to do. And so full circle, I am excited about a market like this because agents who are willing to learn the skills, who are willing to put in the effort, who are willing to be of service to their sellers at a higher level, they will kick serious ass. And it's simple because the old market basically was based on relationships. The old market was based on a lot of centers of influence and past client stuff, which is still relevant, but obviously it's not going to be, centers of influence and past clients type real estate business is very flimsy. It's the weakest single spoke you could have because you cannot duplicate it and it's not predictable. That's just the bottom line with it. Now, with regards to in a market like this, you're going to be seeing opportunities with expired listings. Expired listings require skill. Expired listings require that you know how to, do all the things necessary to get the house sold in a market where there's going to be a lot of inventory. Expired listings means that you're going to have to understand market trends. It's going to mean you're going to have to understand stuff that maybe nobody else that you know in your real estate office even has a clue about. But that's the advantage. If you can know things that other people won't know, and you can apply that knowledge, it's not just enough to know it. You have to know how to apply it. In other words, have the knowledge and then know how to help people with the knowledge that you've gained. When you are willing to put all these, the doing what you don't want to do and you don't want to do at the highest level pieces together, you become somebody that other people just don't understand. You become like one of these phenom types. You become somebody who, you'll never get that listing sold. Oh, well, you're the 5th listing agent on that one, and then you walk in and you get it sold. Because you're able to have a conversation with the seller that was able to help them move past their ego's resistance to pricing the house accordingly. In other words, the seller wanted to sell the house, had to sell the house, was in desperate straits to sell the house, but the previous listing agents did not know how to counsel the seller on how to position the house correctly and the market to correctly reflect the buyer's expectations. Did you follow what I just said? I did not say lower the price. See, these are all the things you guys learn when you have more skills. You're going to have to learn. You do have to Dr. Phil the seller sometimes. You do have to learn how to Dr. Phil yourself. There's a lot, again, the barriers to entry in real estate are always low. The ability to stay in this business, especially in a market like this, is extremely difficult because most agents are going to roll into the market again. They're going to roll into offices that are going to be barely staying alive themselves, who are going to be predicated on buying buyer leads. The whole buying buyer leads thing is a fad that's coming to an end. This will probably be the last hurrah this year, is my guess. And then you're going to see all these agents who never took the time to learn how to actually be professional. They're just not going to survive. That breaks my heart because it largely, unless they've discovered this podcast, is not their fault because nobody else in the industry says what Julie and I say. And I'll tell you why they don't say what we say, because their interests are not aligned with what we're saying. Their interests are aligned with you guys believing that there's easy buttons because they earn money from the easy buttons that you buy. Their interests are aligned with you forming these big dysfunctional brokerages because the more agents that you add, the more money that they make. Their interests are not aligned with your best interests. Their interests are not aligned with your financial best interest. And I want you to really think about that because it's true. 99% of the people out there telling you to form teams do not give a shit about whether or not you actually have any net profit. They know, you know what? They do know that you won't have any net profit. People are telling you guys to do expansion teams, and you're telling you to do all this big marketing and all this ego advertising and all these websites and all this other stuff. They do not care if you basically ever make a profit in your business. You might sell more houses. You might get more plaques. More people might think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But at the end of the year, when you're sitting around and saying, where's my profit, and you don't have any, you're going to think that somehow you screwed up. You're going to think that somehow you didn't do the system well enough, or you didn't add enough staff members. You just needed to buy more buyer leads, or you know what? Maybe if you just had done billboards, you would have made a profit. No. That's not how it works. And the people who are telling you to do these things, they know it, but they benefit from you making dumb business decisions. That's what's happened to our industry in the past 10 years. In the past 10 years, despite all these brokers and all these gurus saying they're agent-centric, they're not. You can tell. When you walk into a coach's, event, let's just say, or a motivational speaker's event, and in the back of the room are the words Zillow or Bank of America, for example, that person's interests are not aligned with you. How about when that person tries to sell you a CRM, and then you later find out that CRM is actually a white-labeled version of Contactually, and Contactually is owned by Compass? How about when you discover that essentially all the things that you believed were true are fake because none of these people really were giving a rat's ass about what was best for you? I know this sounds, a little ranty, especially for Julie's birthday, but it's hard for us, though. Julie and I. Well, but it is true, and it is difficult. Maybe it's because it's Julie's birthday, to be honest with you. No, I think that's probably why. Julie and I have been married for 28 years this year, a long damn time. And I've seen, and Julie's seen this cycle 3 times before, and never before have I seen such an absolute slaughtering of agents when it comes to people that should have been protecting them. And I'm not going to protect you, and Julie's not going to protect you. We're not your guru. You need to do that yourself. But if you are entering into a relationship with a brokerage and they're telling you to do things that are in the exact opposite of your best interest, and they know it, that in my mind is evil. It is. In my mind, that's evil. But here, agent, listen, you're the entrepreneur here. You need to understand that for the most part, unless someone's having a conversation with you that starts with, or at least one of the initial phases of the conversation is, what's the profit from what you're thinking about doing? If you're not leading with profit in every single decision you make, and you're thinking you'll save what's left over, you won't have any money because you'll spend it. Because the system that has been created over the last 10 years from all these greedy sons of bitches it's going to keep you broke. And that's the emails that we've been getting, okay? And that's the reason that probably I'm a little snarky. Sorry, on Julie's birthday. But when we get emails and people are saying, Tim, I was just barely building myself out of the hole that had come from the last recession, and now my market's slowing down again. And a lot of these people are, in their late 40s, mid-50s, some of them in their early 60s. They never had patched themselves back together from the last recession. And now, the housing crash. And now we're going to another housing slowdown, and it looks like they're not going to be able to even ever get ahead in a significant way. And they are crestfallen, and they think that they're the problem. They think that they screwed up. And they did in a lot of ways, truthfully. Ultimately, it's your responsibility. What you make decisions, it's your responsibility. But the flip side to it is that they did have a whole bunch of misinformation that was constantly being shoved down their throats. And I'm talking about the KW system. I'm talking about the system that some of our competitors have been preaching. I'm talking about Zillow and buying buyer leads. I'm talking about all the ways that agents are basically just being stacked up and knocked over. That's sad to me because ultimately you guys are getting hurt. Ultimately, your families are getting hurt. Ultimately, you're walking away every single day feeling like a failure just because you were following. You think that I'm going to run some Facebook ads, or I'm going to run some, fancy this or the other things. And then when it doesn't work, you don't ever take the time to assume that what they were trying to sell you didn't work. You blame yourself. That's what these emails are. Tim, I tried to build – Julie, how many emails have you gotten so far this week about failed teams? It's like a regular thing.
Different flavors
and they think
of
it's their fault.
Certainly. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, you have to feed the machine. You can't just partner with a couple of buyer's agents and all of a sudden your volume goes up and your expenses go down. That is not how it works. You just put a bunch of new baby birds in the nest to keep feeding worms to. Now you got to go find out another worm generator. It is just one thing after the next. And I think because it takes a while for agents and, quote, team leaders, rainmakers, it takes a while for them to see that. It doesn't happen instantly like it would if you were at a job and you weren't performing, or your partners in your division of that job just were not performing and they had to report their numbers virtually every day. The nature of real estate takes too long for it to show. Go ahead.
Do you remember that millennial that was in the front room of an event we were doing recently? I say millennial because there's not a lot of millennials in real estate.
New York, I think.
But
yeah.
Yes, and he started arguing with us about teams, and it's like, dude, you have no and then we pulled him aside afterwards. It turns out basically he didn't have any money. His financial situation was, but he'd gone so far down the rabbit hole in his thinking that he thought that teams were what he had to do. So when asked what he thought he should be focusing on, his answer was forming his team, not learning how to sell, not learning how to go after expireds, not learning how to present on a listing presentation. Form a freaking team. How does that even make sense?
No.
But that's what the industry does. Oh, you got your real estate license. Time for you to start working on your team. Oh, you better go join a team. Guys, come on now. Does that even make sense to you intuitively? You know what I'm talking about, right, Julie?
Yeah, totally. Well, it sounds a lot more interesting, sounds a lot more fun. The problem is that when you front load your business with that and you've never lived it yourself, certainly at a high level, how in the world would you ever hold somebody accountable to it? It's like agents that hire a transaction coordinator, but they don't know how to actually close a deal, and then they get mad because the deal doesn't close on time. How does that make any sense whatsoever? I understand it's the easy button, but it's not sustainable. For even 90 days, it's not sustainable. So I feel bad because, we're part of this industry, and I feel bad that the conversations we have on our podcast are not happening when they get their real estate license or when they choose their broker or when they decide what path they're going to follow. That's when it should happen because we feel, I guess it's job security as a coach maybe, that we have to kind of clean up the pieces and put them back together again. But I feel bad for them because it's a costly lesson to learn, and I hope that we're able to save at least some of them by our podcast.
Julie and I we've been blackballed from speaking at associations, not all of them, some of them, because their sponsors don't want us to speak at those events because we tell the truth about what the sponsors actually deliver. There was an event, this was last year, and they had two sponsors, both of which we'd rallied against of saying, calling them out for being time-wasting, wastes of money. And one of them was one of these companies that was selling geographic, farming where you're predictive this and the other thing, guessing where the next seller was going to be. And it had a great ring to it initially when they came out with that idea, but then we had some members that used it and said it was garbage. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want any, trouble, but the reality of it is that we knew it didn't work. And conceptually, and they saw that we were being proposed as being one of the main speakers, and they had underwritten the thing. And so one call went to another, and I received a nice little email saying that they changed direction, whatever. And I called the person. I said, it's because so-and-so didn't want you guys to speak because of the fact that you would cost them business. And I thought, well, you know what? That's fine. That's all good. Because now it was this, years past or whatever, and someone I trust told me that company's on their way of going out of business. There was another time, this was, I don't know, maybe last year, all my years blend, where it was a website company that tried to pull the plug on Julie and I. And this was on an online event where, same deal. They sell these expensive websites to agents, these beautiful, expensive websites that have all these bangles and, garbage. And, we said, look, agent websites are a complete waste, what we say. And they essentially said they were going to pull their money from the underwriting this particular event, and that was going to be that. So another nice little, exchange of information. I said, hey, I understand. You guys got to get paid. But you see what's happened, guys? The false information in all these companies. So you ask where this money comes from. The money has been coming from investors to fund these companies. The money has also been coming from a lot of agents who didn't have enough business sense to question the validity of what they were buying when they subscribed to one of these companies. This is the type of thing that's happened, and nobody in the industry, other than us, has actually called these companies out or actually just tried to educate agents on how to make smart business decisions. Very rarely do any of these companies completely and totally scam agents. I don't think they set out to do that, because, but most of them don't have a real need. Like, in other words, there's no real value to the company. And that's where agents don't know how to ascertain whether something has value or not. They just don't know what questions to ask. And we educate them without, we're not going to go and say this company's crap and this company's good by name. We won't do that. But we're going to educate you so you could do it yourself. That's what our job is. So in any event, so when you're thinking about sending an email directly to Julie and I at timandjulieharris.com or Julie at timandjulieharris.com, I want you to go back and listen to this podcast. And I know a lot of you are having your best years ever. We get those emails too. And I know a lot of you are just incredibly well off and appreciative of where you are in the marketplace right now. It's because you are doing what you didn't want to do, and you didn't want to do it at the highest level last year and maybe even the previous year, so you have skills and you're kicking ass in this market. Hats off to you. But for the rest of you, the bulk of you who are just discovering us for the first time, I'm going to suggest you do this one thing before you email me. I want you to request a free coaching call with one of our new member coaches. They're at least going to set the foundation for you. And when you request a free coaching call, we're also going to give you 6 free books: Real Estate Treasure Map, Think and Grow Rich, your 12-month lead generation plan. And all you've got to do is text the word Harris, Harris, text the word Harris, our last name, Harris, to 31996. Text the word Harris to 31996. And not only are you going to be entitled to a free coaching call with one of our new member coaches, but we're also going to give you 6 books. And you get those books instantly after you schedule your coaching call. So text the word Harris, Harris, to 31996, and we can actually probably get you in today for a free coaching call. So, Julie, let's finish out our points.
Yes, you got it. So we've been talking about how to transition from a part-time dabbler to a full-time rock star in real estate. And as we mentioned yesterday, this covers many different situations. Maybe you're still working your other job. Maybe you're going to always continue working a part-time job. We talked about, for some of you, that makes sense because of the benefits and the insurance. We're never going to pick on you for taking good care of yourself and your family. So that's okay with us. But for those of you who are looking to replace that job or to maybe take it to the next level, how do you transition to being able to do that? So we did points 1 through 6, or rules 1 through 6 yesterday. Today we're going to talk about number 7, support. Your family must buy into your plan and support you. If you don't have that, you might not be a great salesperson yet. If you can't present your case to your family, even if that's just your spouse or significant other, how are you going to do it out in the wilds of real estate? You cannot quit your job and go full-time just out of selfish entitlement to, quote, do your own thing, dump your boss, whatever may be going on in your head. Sometimes you guys quit too soon just because you had a bad day at the old job. You've got to have your family's support behind you when you're going to go out into the wild and make a living full-time in this job. Related to that, rule number 8, money. And we talked about this a little bit before. 90 days minimum standard, more is better. You may not spend money that you do not have. Throwing everything on a credit card is not the solution, okay? So the charge it and worry about it later is a good way to start out in debt in this business. Doesn't work. And it's worse now than when we got into it, certainly, because there's so many places you can do that. Second you get your license, you're going to get all kinds of offers, easy button
stuff. They know,
stuff.
Jules.
They know. So don't spend it if you don't have it. It's amazing to me that nobody mentions, well, how much is there to spend on your, leads, marketing, et cetera. So rule number 9, I'm going kind of fast so that we can get these things into your brains. Rule number 9 is discipline. You must be committed to actually following a dollar productive schedule based on actual financial goals. Now, specifically, the schedule must be 80% lead generation, lead follow-up, pre-qualifying, presenting, negotiating, and closing, not office meetings, designations, webinars, caravans, and tweaking your website. Most people have this flip-flopped. They'll spend 80%, maybe even more than that, on the things that look like work but aren't actually based on profitability. And I would say even, especially in the beginning when you're transitioning here, 80% of your time probably should be spent just on lead generation, lead follow-up, and appointments. And then the rest will follow. You'll have to pre-qualify. You'll have to present, negotiate, and close. So when you have to make a choice, and you're walking into your real estate office or your home office, what am I going to do with myself today? It has to be lead generation, lead follow-up, and setting appointments. It's so easy to get distracted by everything else because it's easier, it's more fun, and you don't get rejection. But that's also not where profitability comes from. Number 10, business plan. Yes, you must actually have and follow a business plan. Some of you have done the treasure map or your 90-day massive action plan, but it's just stuck away in your drawer or a folder someplace. You have to actually follow it. So you've got some choices with us. You've got the real estate treasure map. That's the all-encompassing, super personalized, big picture plan, which includes your goals, your schedule, et cetera. You've got a survival plan for those of you who are going from check to check, month to month, just trying to pull ahead. And there's lots of reasons for that. That's not just a newbie thing. Lots of grizzled veterans go to the survival plan occasionally when they have some kind of a financial hiccup. And many of you guys love the 90-day massive action plan because you only have to concentrate one quarter at a time. These are all good choices, but you have to follow them. You have to get it done. You have to follow the business plan. Just coming in and checking your voicemail, email, and text is not a plan. Anything you want to add to that, Tim? I could go on, but we do have their backs on this with our plans.
The real estate treasure map is the first step, so definitely download that. It's free, 31996. Text the word Harris to 31996. Go ahead, Jules.
I just realized what time it is. I'm going to do one more, and then I've got to go to Premier, our live coaching call for the day. All right, so number 11, and this is always interesting, accountability. You must track your business visually using our whiteboard method because out of sight is out of mind. CRMs and spreadsheets are great, but visual accountability works better. And I think that we've done a podcast just on visual accountability. If we haven't, we need to do that. It's certainly part of Premier Coaching. It works so well, it's almost uncanny to walk into your office and have all of your business being tracked visually from your leads to your listings, tracking your magic number of listings, how many buyers that you're working, but certainly active listings, and then your number of closings. So if you find out after you've done your treasure map that your magic number of listings to have at all times in order to meet or exceed your financial goals, if you find out that that number is 10, and you look at that whiteboard, that visual accountability in your office, and you're at 4, and there's white space for 6, it's pretty clear where you need to spend your time today versus just, maybe looking at that spreadsheet once a week or once a month. It works so much better. It's really uncanny. I've had agents tell me before, be careful what you wish for because it's such a strong thing to come in and look at it. It'll cause you to not go on that caravan and instead do your lead follow-up and then set listing appointments. So I'll toss it back to you so I can get all teed up for Premier Coaching.
Hey, Julie, happy birthday.
Yes.
And for those of you
and
who
you too.
Yes. Oh, yes. For those of you who want to wish Julie a happy birthday, just email her, julie@timandjulieharris.com. She appreciates it, of course. We all do, right? So listen, guys, I know a lot of you are experiencing your best years ever, and I'm thrilled for you. And I really appreciate the words of praise, you guys, the testimonials, the videos, just everything, all the wonderful things you guys pass back to us saying thank you. It does matter. It does make a difference. If you're on iTunes and you're listening to us, like all of you listen on your mobile device, if you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. I'd really appreciate it. Go over to Google and give us a great rating on the Google business page. I'd appreciate that too. Anything you guys can help us do to reinforce what we're doing for the sake of the industry. Look, at the end of the day, we are real estate agents. I mean, we're not, but you know what I'm saying. That's how we think, though. We think about every single day. We're still hardwired to think about, okay, I have to go make this my best day, and I have to reproduce it the day after that, the day after that, the day after that. Because if I don't, then I'm going to pay the price in 60 to 90 days. I mean, Julian, the discipline that you have to have at this business to succeed consistently, the doing what you don't want to do and you don't want to do it at the highest level, that it really is something that once you make that part of your life, it becomes easy. And so when Julie and I made that part of our life selling real estate, it was easy for us to transition that discipline into coaching. When we were coaching thousands and thousands of people ourselves before we built our company, and now we're at the point where the same discipline applies to other skill sets, and that's what you're going to learn. As you progress, once you stop hunting and pecking, once you start thinking of yourself as a business professional, an entrepreneur, once you start putting profit first in the business decisions you're making, once you realize that you will only make profit when you're able to be of service to really thousands of people or maybe hundreds of people, or maybe just to start dozens of people, once you put all these thoughts together and you start living and breathing them, I promise you everything becomes easier because you'll have this uncanny level of confidence, not cockiness, not arrogance, but confidence, because you're going to know no matter what interest rates do, no matter what the market does, no matter what all these other things that everyone else lives in fear of experiencing happens. Oh, shit, what happens if Zillow raises the prices? Oh, what happens if my competitor copies me? What happens? All these things that you guys bounce around inside your skulls and online, of course, all these worst case scenarios, and all that stuff it'll become muted in your life. It'll still be there. I'm not saying it's going to go away, but it'll be muted. It won't be as powerful because you can, when you want to, literally create a listing. That's what we show you how to do. That is our primary focus. That's what we are. Again, that's where we found our success selling real estate. And that's what makes us unique in the coaching space and the training space, because we're not going to sell you a bunch of, really anything. When you join our coaching program, it's a complete system. It's an A to Z system. It's going to show you how to thrive in this market. It's going to show you the benefit. You're going to be convinced of the benefit of doing what you don't want to do and you don't want to do it at the highest level, and then your life's going to change. That's what I look forward to. That's the relationship I look forward to having to all of you, and it's the next natural step. So if you want to learn about the coaching program, it's quite simple. Just text the word Harris, Harris, to 31996. And if you need me for anything, obviously you guys have my email address, but I'll give it to you again anyway. It's tim@timandjulieharris.com or julie@timandjulieharris.com. We really do encourage you to reach out to us. Give us any feedback. I know some of you are going to email me saying I shouldn't swear because I, maybe said a few bad words, and I accept that. I shouldn't. You're right. But, the rest of you who have comments and concerns and wanting us to maybe talk more about this or less about that, tell me. And we listen. tim@timandjulieharris.com or julie@timandjulieharris.com. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you on the show tomorrow.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows. And until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.